The next quilt I am going to make will be using this pattern. This is a free download from Jordan Fabrics. That's the sample that comes with the pattern. And the video that goes with this that Donna Jordan made was using fabric that was sort of a turquoisey color and purple. They are Robert Kaufman Artisan Batiks, and the design line is called Elementals by Lund Studios. This was from a couple of years ago, so I do not know if elementals are still being made, but you could do it with pretty much any sort of variegated stripy kind of fabric. And I'll show you what I'm using for mine. The fabric I'm going to use is also a batik. It is Banyan Batiks by Northcott, and this is number 66 gray. You can see how it's got stripies, but it also is kind of mottled, so it won't turn out exactly like that pattern, but the stripies are similar enough that I think it will be okay. And my friend's daughter wanted something really subtle. She's not into loads of color. This would not be my cup of tea necessarily, but that's what she wants. That's what she's going to get. Now here I have 24 10-inch squares cut. And we'll go on to the next bit of the pattern. The pattern requires to put the fabric into pairs that look as close together as possible. It's a bit hard to tell with this fabric because it's so light, but I have some of the yellow colored crosshatchy stuff, and then some gray stripes, and then more yellow and more gray stripes. So what you're required to do is have them so that they're kind of the same. And then you lay them out like this. And you cut this one this way, and this one this way, and then you swap them around. I've got my cuts done now. The pattern calls this piece A, B, C, and D. So then what you do is you switch places between piece D and piece B. So this is B, it goes down over this way, and this is D, and it comes up here and goes like that, and this one goes like this, and then you sew them together along the diagonals, and you make all of the squares exactly the same. I have a stack here of 35 finished blocks. I'm making the quilt a bit bigger. The pattern has 4 blocks by 6, and I'm going to go 5 by 7. When you sew them together, be very careful with this seam on the diagonal because it's bias. Don't pull it, don't stretch it, just set the 2 triangles on top of each other carefully, pin them if you like, and sew your 1/4 inch seam. Done. Now I have to lay them all out and get the rows sewed together, and the top will be finished. I've got all but 5 blocks up on my design wall. It's kind of hard to see because of the light fabric. As you can see with some of the blocks were easier to get similar than others were. Basically, I've just tried to have all the seams going this way and the sort of this stair-step effect like this in all the blocks. It's really hard to tell on the camera. It actually looks better than I thought it was going to, even though it is kind of boring. But I think when it's still sewn together, I think it'll turn out pretty good, and I hope my friend's daughter likes it. Usually, I like to do my binding on my quilts by machine. Now, I do apologize because I'm having to film this on my phone to get close enough so you can see it. So if it jiggles, I'm sorry. So, in most of the cases, what I do is I sew the binding onto the back of the quilt. That's the front. See the seam where the block got sewed together? That's the back. And then, what I will do is flip it around to the front like this. Make sure it's tight without any flaps. And I have some little clips I clip it down with. And then I do a stitch right along the edge. About not even 1/8 of an inch, right along the edge. With my walking foot, because I have a lot of bulk in here now. I want to make sure everything feeds evenly. So right along there, stitch it down. This is really easy because these fabrics are similar in color. So I just have a slightly light cream thread in the top of the machine and also in my bobbin. If you have different colors of binding and backing and quilt top and everything, then you have to vary up your thread colors a bit. But for the case of this one, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Flip it around, sew it down right along the edge. Easy.